Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Please take your seats if you're not seated already. So, good morning again, ladies and gentlemen, and cordially welcome here for the 20th Czech Days for European Research in Prague. It is pleasing to see a plenty of faces here in the conference hall, but I would also like to greet those who are watching us online. Welcome. My name is Eliška Zvolánková, and it is my honor to guide you through today's conference on the topic the Czech Republic in the European Research Area, Benefits and Impact. This conference is organized by the Technological Center Prague in cooperation with the Ministry of Education, Youth and Sports. Today's event is special because we celebrate, as I just mentioned, the 20th anniversary of Czeder. And this offers us a perfect opportunity to look back. We have a diverse program that includes assessments, stories told by successful grantees, discussions, and an inspiring exhibition. So let us start, and without further ado, let me welcome here on stage a distinguished guest, Vladimír Balaš, the Minister of Education, Youth and Sports.
Thank you. Esteemed colleagues, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, allow me to warmly welcome you on the occasion of holding 20th edition of Czeder Annual Conference, which is held by the Technology Center Prague in close cooperation with the Ministry of Education, Youth and Sports. The Czeder Conference, in full title, the Czech Days for European Research, constitutes the leading event focused on the most up-to-date topics of European research and innovation policy. Every year, it provides a great opportunity to discuss questions related to the Czech engagement in the European research area, and particularly Czech participation in the European framework programs for research and innovation, currently Horizon Europe. This year's edition of Czeder Conference will be no exception. In particular, we will have the opportunity to debate the European Research Council and its impact, and Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions and their contribution to addressing Europe's most pressing societal challenges. Now that the Czech presidency of the Council of the EU has come to an end, I am delighted to say that during these past 6 months, we have concluded negotiations and adopted 6 official policy documents which were on our research and innovation agenda. But more importantly, we have gained momentum that will not end with the Czech presidency, but we will have strong follow-up in the upcoming period as well. With this in mind, I would like to remind you of our 3 top research innovation priorities in the past semester, and also what we can expect in the near future. Firstly, innovation was placed high on our agenda during the Czech presidency. We have adopted not only the Council conclusions on the European Innovation Agenda, but also the Council recommendation on guiding principle of knowledge valorization. And it is precisely the topic of knowledge valorization, which is very timely as we address the challenges of the post-pandemic recovery and those of the green transition and the digital transformation of the European economy. In this regard, I'm very pleased that Czechia will be one of the host countries for the awareness-raising campaign of knowledge valorization, which is organized by the European Commission, and the event will be held in April, and I will be very happy to welcome you all on this occasion in Prague. Secondly, research infrastructures were another key priority of the Czech presidency. And in fact, it has been a joint priority for the whole current presidency trio of France, Czechia, and Sweden. During the French presidency term, we celebrated the 20th anniversary of the European Strategy Forum on Research Infrastructures. And then the Czech presidency facilitated adoption of the Council conclusions on research infrastructures and the Brno Declaration in the aftermath of holding the 2022 edition of the International Conference on Research Infrastructures. And now the Swedish presidency will focus on research infrastructures from the perspective of open access. And last but not least, synergies in the research and innovation funding were also a key priority of the Czech presidency. And we plan to advance discussions on this topic even further through a series of workshops organized by the Technology Center Prague to be held now in mid-February and after the Czeder conference and in late April. Let me conclude my brief opening by thanking all research and innovation stakeholders for their work in making the Czech presidency a success. And I hope you will hold enriching discussions here at the Czeder conference too, and that the event will help integrate the Czech Republic even further in the European research area. So I stop here. Thank you very much for your attention, and I wish you once again a fruitful discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Balaš. We will talk about some of the topics that you mentioned more in details during the day. But now, please let me welcome also Karel Klusáček, the director of the Technology Center Prague.
Good morning, dear Mr. Balaš, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you all on behalf of the Technology Center Prague for the 20th Conference of the Czech Days for European Research, Czeder 2023. Going back down memory lane to the late 90s, in February 99 to be more precise, I had an opportunity to participate in the opening conference of the new 5th Framework Program in Essen, Germany, as a member of Czech delegation. By the way, Ministry of Education, Youth and Sports rented a small propeller plane from the Czech Aerospace Research Center for this flight. It was quite an adventure, I have to say. But anyway, why was this conference so special? 11 accession countries, including the Czech Republic, were welcomed as newly fledged participants to the Open Framework Program. These countries then successfully became full members of the European Union over several years, and like culture, the research has demonstrated its ability to create bridges for the future broad political and economic cooperation. With the inclusion of the Czech Republic into the 5th Framework Program, there was a heavy need to build a comprehensive system of information training and consulting services and to create supportive environment for successful participation of Czech research teams in this program. Based on a tender called by the Ministry of Education, our Technology Center had been commissioned by the Ministry to implement this agenda and has been providing these services ever since then. Our records show that over 20,000 consultations have been provided over this period, and Technology Center has helped to prepare almost 2,500 concrete projects. Our statistics also show that these projects have been very successful in receiving financial support. In addition, our center continuously monitors the participation of the Czech Republic in the EU framework programs, and we also prepare studies to analyze the individual aspects of Czech participation in these programs for the needs of state administration and other institutions. But enough about the Technology Center. Let's take a look at today's program. In the first part, we will have an opportunity to look back and review the results of the recent Czech EU Presidency in the field of research and development, followed by an overview of selected aspects of Czech Republic's participation in the Horizon Europe program. The following two thematic blocks of the conference will focus on two important areas of the first pillar of Horizon Europe, excellent science. These are European Research Council grants and Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions, supporting the international mobility of researchers. These topics were specifically chosen to present and discuss the experiences of successful grantees, in particular the impact of their projects on development of their scientific careers and thus motivating others, especially young researchers. Now, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to all of my colleagues from the Technology Center, especially the team from the National Information Center for European Research for their excellent work, effort, and dedication in preparing this Jubilee Conference. Let me also express something very personal. My personal thanks to our highly respected colleague Vladimír Albrecht, who is literally the father of the idea of organizing Czeder conferences and who has always been and is an inspiration and motivation for many of us. Unfortunately, Vladimír cannot take part today, but because conference is streamed, I believe he is online. A special thanks also goes, of course, to the Ministry of Education, Youth and Sports for its long-standing, all-around support of our work. Let me conclude by wishing all of you many more successful years of productive international cooperation. I believe this conference will show you a range of interesting and inspiring information that will help you to achieve your goals, whatever they may be. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Klusáček. Ladies and gentlemen, now we have time for Ms. Núñez, Mr. Frank, and Mr. Vojtěch to join us at the front table. So please come, don't be afraid, take your seats. And as I already mentioned, we have a rich program ahead, and I wanted to talk about it a little bit more in detail. But since Mr. Klusáček already did, I'm gonna skip it and just tell you where you can find the place or how you can ask your questions during the day. So please, if you are seated here in the hall, you can always ask questions in person. So just raise your hand and wait for the microphone to arrive. Or you can ask through the application of Slido. Do you know Slido? You just go to the webpage Slido, which is sli.do, and there you enter the code Czeder. And there you can ask these questions. And also I would like to excuse Mr. Balaš. He will stay here for a bit longer, but then he will have to go away somewhere in the meantime due to his other work duties. Also, during the whole day, as I already mentioned, you can and you are most welcome to visit the exhibition area just in front of the hall that showcase the results and outcomes of projects in which Czech coordinators and partners participated. One of those outcomes, however, will accompany us non-stop, even here in the conference hall or at your home's offices. The team of Ondřej Bojar is presenting here their language technology Elitr, a system that automatically transcribes and simultaneously translates into 42 languages. You are encouraged to try it during the talks, today the live talks, through the web page that you can find the hyperlink on the Czeder homepage. So if you go on the czeder.cz and you scroll down, there is the hyperlink that will guide you to the system. Also, you can find the QR codes here on the tables. That's maybe an easier way for you to access it. So try it. Just be aware that this is not a replacement of an interpreter, but certainly a very good complement. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let us look back at results of the Czech presidency of the Council of the EU in the field of research and development and reflect on their impact and next steps. Please welcome here Lucie Núñez Tayupanta, a head of unit of the European Research Area at Ministry of Education, Youth and Sports.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. I'm happy to be here with you. And as said, I will try to present you the achievements and impacts of the Czech presidency in the EU in the past half year. And of course, it's focused mainly on the area of research, development, and innovation. That's why we are here. But first of all, I would like to say that, as you all know, our presidency was very impacted by the current geopolitical situation and all the crises that came together with the situation. And of course, it was framed by the overall cross-sectorial priorities for the whole Czech presidency as such. So we have had to, of course, reflect in some way all the priorities that were set for the whole policy, which was primarily the refugee crisis caused by the Russian war and Russian aggression in Ukraine, then the energy crisis, and tries to strengthen the energy independence. Then the other issue that was very pressing was, of course, how to strengthen the capacity to build cyberspace security. The strategic resilience was an overarching topic as well, and of course the resilience of democratic institutions. All those overarching topics were somehow reflected, of course, in the research, development, and innovation priorities, although it was not an streamline impact, of course, but we tried to reflect them as well. So I will go directly to the first slide, which is comprising the priorities of the Czech presidency. As said in the opening speech, we had mainly two main priorities. One of them was the synergies in research and innovation funding. The other one was European research infrastructure ecosystem. Those two priorities were chosen well in advance before the Czech presidency started. They were chosen in close cooperation with our colleagues from the trio presidency, France and Sweden as well, so that all the colleagues also from these member states could continue or could prepare also the field for us to continue in these priorities. So as you know, for example, research infrastructures are priorities both for the French presidency, or were priorities for the French presidency and for the incoming or the current Swedish presidency. There were other topics that appeared during the presidency that we had to reflect, we had to react on. One of them was the topic of innovation. The Commission issued a Commission communication on the new European Innovation Agenda, which was a new document, and we tried to react on that document with our activity in the field of research working group. I will come to that later, as I will show you all the documents that were adopted. The second priority that appeared during our presidency was the so-called widening, because the European Court of Auditors issued a report on how to measure to widen participation in Horizon 2020. And as well, the European Court of Auditors issued another report on synergies between Horizon 2020 and European Structural and Investment Funds. These two documents were also supposed to be reflected on with Council conclusions. The other topic already mentioned here, also very important for us as the Czech presidency, also for the future, is the guiding principles for knowledge valorization. We also prepared a document reflecting these principles. And there were other themes which are still not concluded. Is the Single Basic Act. It's a legal document which is dedicated to so-called joint undertakings. Maybe you're aware of that we have several joint undertakings. These are called partnerships in this program period. And one of them, the key digital technologies, is supposed to be transformed into CHIPS joint undertaking. So these discussions are still ongoing, and we are taking part in them. However, during our presidency, we were also negotiating the progress within this topic. The other topic mentioned here, or the last topic, is the international cooperation and association agreements, because during our presidency there were two other agreements of association to Horizon Europe, which were prepared, and one of them was already signed, and one is to be signed very soon. So this was also another thing that we had to deal with. Now I would like to go a little bit into detail in our priorities, which were chosen before the presidency, and it's the synergies in the research and innovation funding, and what was achieved afterwards. So as you know, the synergies, mainly the focus on the topic of synergies, was to find some link between the national or regional programs and the European research and innovation funding instruments. It can be Horizon Europe, of course, as the main program, the framework program for research and innovation, but there can be other programs, directly managed programs of the EU, as for example, Digital Europe or Invest EU Fund, Recover and Resilience Fund, which is also a very current and new topic for us, and of course, well-known cohesion policy funds. So this is what the priority was focused on. We organized a flagship conference in the beginning of July. It was the first event of the Czech presidency. I think it was very successful. We had almost 250 attendees and a lot of people following online. And we had a rich discussion regarding the synergies as such, as a concept, but also regarding specific areas of research and development cooperation, namely research infrastructures, European partnerships, EU missions, EU cohesion policy, and innovation. So these 5 topics were the center, the core of the discussions. Then we continued in the discussions during the informal meeting of European research ministers that came to Prague on the 22nd of July. They had the meeting in Prague in the conference center. There were EU ministers and also invited IFTA countries ministers. They had a rich discussion regarding the synergies in the research and innovation funding in Europe. And both these 2 events helped us to find some conclusions which we could use in the main document here, which is also written on the first point, is the Prague Declaration on Synergies. This document was prepared by the Czech presidency team. It was discussed with other colleagues, with colleagues from the member states at the level of research working group, which you might know. It's a group based in Brussels, and it's dedicated to discuss all the research issues with other member states. And during June and July, we came to some conclusions, which were also fostered by the conclusions of the flagship conference on synergies and the research ministers meeting. So together, this consensus is comprised in the Prague Declaration on Synergies. It's so-called a call for action to, as you can see, facilitate better synergies in all these sectoral areas that I already mentioned. This Prague Declaration, after the informal meeting of ministers in July in Prague, we invited all the member states to endorse it. So we called to the member states to send us an endorsement letter if they agree with the content and with everything that is set in the political document. And as we informed all the other member states by the end of the presidency, all the member state countries agreed or they endorsed this document, and some of the associated countries as well. As I said, there were also Council conclusions to be adopted in reaction to the report by the European Court of Auditors regarding the synergies. These synergies are concretely dedicated, or these are focused on the synergy within the Horizon 2020 framework program. So in the past, how it was successful or not. These Council conclusions were published in October 2020. So we didn't have a lot of time to discuss it or to prepare discussion. So we started with the discussion in the beginning of December, if I'm not mistaken, and then the Swedish colleagues took over this priority, and they are discussing it right now at the level of research working group. There was also another important step in the field of business synergies, and it's the Commission notice, which was published on 5th of July 2022, and is dedicated to synergies between Horizon Europe and ERDF programs. So we have been waiting quite long for these so-called guidelines for synergies with the ERDF programs, and finally it's on the table so that the discussion can start and can begin in concrete terms already. So this is also very important, not only for us as the Czech Republic, but also for the other member states countries. The second priority was the European research infrastructure ecosystem. As I said, the research infrastructures were chosen as a main priority of the Czech presidency because we believe that it's an essential component of the European critical infrastructure and a key instrument to the post-pandemic recovery. They can also help us to strengthen the resilience of the European economy. So this was mainly the focus, how to strengthen their capacity to help us with the current situation, not only the current situation, but also with coming crisis possibly. We had two main documents related to research infrastructures. Thank you. And these documents were mainly the Council conclusions. They, as I said, basically focused on the advancement of the European research infrastructure ecosystem. They were adopted by the EU research ministers at the Council by the end of the Czech presidency on the 2nd of December. And there was also a document called Brno Declaration, which was aimed to develop a global research infrastructure ecosystem as well. This document was published, or it was made public, to say it like this, in the International Conference on Research Infrastructure that took place in October in Brno, as well together back-to-back to the European Strategy Forum on Research Infrastructures. So these were the two main events regarding research infrastructures. The third priority, as I choose to speak a little bit about here, is the European Innovation Agenda. You can see the main topics, the main issues that were tackled in the EU Council conclusions that followed the publication of the Commission communication. The new innovation agenda is mainly focused on strengthening, building the capacity to react on the current situation. It's mainly focused on the disruptive innovation, so that there are 5 areas that should help these disruptive innovations to take place in Europe as well, because as we all know, Europe is lagging behind the rest of the world in the field of innovation. So this is some kind of maybe guide also for all the stakeholders to know where to focus on. As you can see, there are skills mentioned within the document. They are the regulatory framework conditions, which are very important for the member states that have to be set up still. The access to scale-up finance for the deep tech innovations and for the new startups. There's the better interconnection with the innovation ecosystem within the whole EU, and of course, linked to this, the bridge to innovation divide, and we are trying to close the innovation gap within these measures set in these documents. So this is a slide comprising all the policy documents that were adopted or that were discussed during our presidency. So you can see that we have 2 declarations, both endorsed by all the EU research ministers. The Brno Declaration on Research Infrastructures was also endorsed by the College of Commissioners. And we had 4 Council conclusions. The main Council conclusions for us, of course, conclusions on research infrastructures, but then the conclusions on European Innovation Agenda, as I mentioned, and Council conclusions on widening. This was the first topic, as I mentioned in the first slide, that we prepared conclusions on this as well. The fourth one, I'm sorry to say it wrongly, it's not a conclusion, it's a council recommendation. It's a little bit different document, but still very valid and very important for the future and for the future development of this topic. There were also other topics that were discussed during the presidency, although we didn't have any specific documents, or for some of them, yes, but they were not politically endorsed documents. We had discussions around foresight in research and innovation, which was a virtual event during October. The rest of the events took place in November. As you can see, there was a strategic energy technology plan conference, knowledge research and education conference, European Open Science Cloud Symposium, and the last topic was dedicated to gender, and very important one, gender-based violence in academia. At this last mentioned event, this conference, there was a call for action afterwards issued, inviting all the member states and all the associations, associated countries as well, but also research association, for example, to join this call for action, which is very current also in these days. Yes, and the follow-up during the Swedish presidency and beyond. Regarding the topic of synergies in research, innovation and funding, there are going to take place several meetings, several discussions. One of them is a roundtable on synergies, which is taking place already tomorrow here in Prague. The aim of this event is mainly to gather at the national level with all the stakeholders that are interested in synergies or that see a potential in the synergies, and from the point of view of the Czech stakeholders to define next steps and to try to find some way how to follow up on the Prague Declaration on Synergies, which comprised the main ideas, the most important things that should be done at both national level and European level. Speaking about the European level, there will be another event or another discussion meeting organized. It's the Synergies Open 3. As you can see, it's already the 3rd edition, so 2 already took place in the past. This will take place in April, the 27th of April, also in Prague. And this discussion will focus on the same, possibly the same topic, the same areas, but also together with the colleagues from the European Commission. So we will try to find some possible concrete measures together with them too. As I mentioned, there are EU Council conclusions on synergies, which are still being discussed at the level of research attachés, and then they will be, if the Council conclusions are prepared and are finalized, they will be adopted by the EU Council. And regarding research infrastructures, as I mentioned, it is a priority of the Swedish presidency. So Sweden is going to take over also the outcomes of our presidency and continue further on this topic in a little bit different way. They are focusing more on open science, open access, and they already organized a high-level meeting dedicated to this theme. It was the informal meeting of research ministers that took place in Stockholm. It was last week. And there were two topics for discussion regarding the open access in research infrastructures. As I know, there are plans to adopt Council conclusions on high quality, transparent, open, trustworthy, and equitably scholarly publishing. And the Swedish colleagues are preparing Lund Declaration, which is also focused on research infrastructures in the digital transition. And there will be a presidency conference focused on the potential of research data in June in Lund. So as you can see, there are also a lot of other meetings where this topic will be discussed in a more detail. And last thing that I want to highlight here are the EU Council recommendations on knowledge valorization. As already mentioned in the opening speech by Mr. Minister, we are going to organize an awareness-raising event in April. It will take place on 18th of April here in Prague, so all of you are warmly welcome to attend this conference. This awareness-raising event will take place first event will take place in the Czech Republic, and there will be a row of other awareness-raising events in other member states. So we will have the opportunity to discuss this topic through maybe I would say 2 more years. So a lot of things will still happen. So this is possibly, yes, the last slide. So thank you very much for your attention, and of course I'm happy to answer any question you might have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Núñez. Thank you for the summary of what happened and was agreed on during the Czech presidency. And we have 2 thematic sessions ahead that will cover long existing framework program funding schemes. And let us start with the Horizon Europe program that was already mentioned a couple of times. As the first speaker, Ann-Sofie Ronnlund will join us online. She is the head of unit of the Common Program Analysis and Regulatory Reform Unit by the European Commission. Ms. Ronnlund, is the connection working?
I can hear you.
Perfect. It's all yours.
Okay. So, good morning, everyone, and good morning from Brussels. Indeed, I'm the head of unit in European Commission in DG Research and Innovation, in a unit that is charged with what we call analyzing the program from different angles and from different stages. And at this stage, we are very much evaluating the past, first of all, in order to be able to better see into the future as well. We have an evaluation of the past program Horizon 2020 ongoing, which I will talk about a bit more in detail to you. It will then also inform the interim evaluation of Horizon Europe, so the current program, which is soon about to start in terms of the evidence we want to collect to know how it is going. And in parallel, we are already engaged in a very, very important exercise, which is to seek the views, the opinions of all of you in the Czech Republic, across Europe, even beyond. So the views of the participants, the applicants, the stakeholders, the member states, civil society, citizens, into what the experiences, the views are with regard to the framework program, both for the past and the present, and actually even the future direction of the program. And this is really my main message here today, is to remind you all of this in case you haven't noticed yet, or if you haven't been able to really work it through yet, is still to remind that this is now the good opportunity to give us all your feedback, all your view about how the past program has been working and how the present is going, so that we can we can also look and reflect this together with the analysis we are doing from the data of the projects ongoing and the ones closed, and see how all of this fits together and what we can learn from it also for the future. And this one is ongoing, the public consultation, until the 23rd of February, so it's there's still until next week to go. But yes, so that's really the main point and the big important phase we are in today. But when it comes to looking back to Horizon 2020, we have been working already for over a year on this. My unit, also many other units in DG Research and Innovation and in other DGs and executive agencies. There have been a large number of studies already ongoing with external consultants that have been given the data we have, and which is also available on the dashboard, of course, for those who are interested to look into it. But these study groups, external consultants, have been analyzing, have been also doing desk research about the state of the RNI and the framework program overall. They have been already doing also some targeted interviews. Maybe some of you have been even contacted to hear a bit closely from a representative sample of different kinds of participants or stakeholders of how they have perceived and experienced the past framework program. This large process of studies into Horizon 2020 is now about to draw to a close. We are in the phase where we are starting to collect the results from the studies and doing also an analysis at program level of what we can see as patterns emerging. Some of the studies are being published in parallel as they are being finalized. So, for instance, on the EIC pilot, so there was an EIC pilot phase under Horizon 2020. There has been already a study into that, which has been published, which is also being used to inform how to take the current still ongoing steps to adapt and really make the program part on innovation really operate at full scale. So this is very timely work we are doing. Even if we're looking back, it's very relevant for the present time. That is maybe the first among the first results we can in a way talk about for Horizon 2020, because it has been published, and there is another one just been published last week, which is about the external relevance, as we call it. In evaluation, you have a set of criteria, specific methodology by which to evaluate any kind of policy, be it program or regulation. And one is this relevance, to look at how the program is acting also with other programs. And that is one of the areas that clearly is coming out, and that I also heard previous speaker talking about, is this question about synergies. It is, I dare to say, definitely a topic that will continue. We know it's important, and through this evaluation now for Horizon 2020, first of all, we will be able to take first lessons from how it has worked in the past. We can see from this study now that was published last week, that synergies have been working to a certain extent. So that's good news. There are examples of good synergies. So synergies can happen either between programs at EU level or also with national actions. And one of the, I would like to mention in particular to you in your audience there in the Czech Republic, that one of the, I even dare to say, success studies at this stage, because it is clearly one, is the way that you have put in place and supported and further amplified the possibility that the seal of excellence has is there to complement funding, to complement the sources for projects that that are not funded at EU level because of the lack of a budget, because of the great number of highly potential projects that are out there. We all know that there is not, unfortunately, a budget for everyone. So it is very important that the national level can complement and use proposal evaluations that have been done, for instance, at European level, and that this seal of excellence gives the opportunity to do. And so the study that I mentioned on the external coherence and synergies clearly found that the Czech example is one of those that has worked well, because the seal of excellence has gotten its added value, and you have really used it, and we can show that there's a concrete way, an example of how a synergy can work. And we are finding bit by bit more and more such success stories. There are also some other countries that have also done well, so you are in good company, and we hope that these kind of good practices and way of working will lead also to discussion, the sharing of these practices between different countries, regions. It can happen at many levels, of course, and there is great potential for that once we have identified the ways that work. So that is really among the first emerging findings we have. For the moment, in terms of other really concrete and fully finalized findings, I cannot really share yet. It will come as time passes. We are now engaged in a very intensive phase where we have many studies finalizing, and we have to validate and see what comes out. So over the next months and at the latest at the end of the year, we will have the full picture, because at the end of the year the full evaluation document is due. This may seem, of course, a bit long to some, but the program is very big. As you know, we have a lot of different actions stemming from individual grants to principal investigators under the European Research Council, and individual grants to Marie Sklodowska-Curie, to very large public-private partnerships. And all of these are part of a big picture, all contributing to different EU policy priorities as well. And that is something that we are trying to reinforce and strengthen in the transition from Horizon 2020 to Horizon Europe, is to not only be able to capture the scientific and the innovation potential that our framework program gives rise to, and where we have a good track record already from the past. I mean, the scientific excellence of Europe is pretty widely recognized. We have been able to establish that also in the past, and we hope that this will be, and think that this will be also confirmed in the ongoing evaluation for Horizon 2020. When it comes to innovation, we know we have a certain innovation gap in Europe. It's why it's so important to work jointly through the framework program between countries to have a better environment that supports scale up of startups, of entrepreneurs, of new innovations and breakthrough technologies. And that's of course why the European Innovation Council was established as well. And we are in the middle of this path to find out how far we can get in closing the innovation gap thanks to this action and the financing actions that are also being taken under the new innovation agenda. But what I mentioned on top of these, we also need to better understand and capture how research and innovation activities through the framework program are responding to the EU political priorities. So COVID-19, the climate change, being more and more autonomous in our ability to care for our future, technological future, security future. These are the big EU political priorities, of course, that we are facing and that we have to respond to. And research and innovation also has a very important role in that. So that is something we are working on, how to better capture, how can we in a way measure or at least monitor what the contribution of research and innovation in this respect is. We have, again, with our analytical work, been able to start doing that. We have analyzed what the contribution of past framework programs, so Horizon 2020, but even FP7, what the contribution has been to resolving and responding to the COVID-19 crisis, for instance. What we found was what we were hoping to find, in the sense that we see that long-term investments into research and innovation is really what is important and what in the end can pay off when there is a crisis like the pandemic of COVID-19. We could see that the framework program has contributed a lot to the international effort, to the body of science that was behind all the publications. So the body of science that led to the measures that were able to be taken. So the EU, as part of course, many other international actors, but we were definitely playing our role. The same comes to responding and taking action to the climate crisis. So again, we have looked at how have EU-funded publications, so from the framework program, funded publications being represented in the body of science that the International Panel on Climate Change is using. And again, we found that we are very well placed. We are there in a second position worldwide. And as you know, the EU program is not that big. I mean, even if we do cross-border research, there are many other efforts ongoing. So again, we can say that we are living up to our promise to take resolute action towards resolving the climate change, and not only at policy level, with of course many regulatory initiatives ongoing since a few years, but also research and innovation. We are doing our bit, and we hope, of course, to continue it. So these are examples to say that to capture this, how we contribute to policies is extremely important to stay relevant, so that also people outside our community of researchers in different institutes, companies, public bodies, innovators in their environments and offices and labs. Beyond us, it's very important, of course, also that the public can follow and understand why this is so important. So this is also behind the what we call then, we put in a bit more impact nature into the program, meaning that we think it's very important that you all of you take a while to think about that and also look at what evidence or how can you show that what might be the end result of your activities are also relevant further down the line. We know it's not easy in the beginning to do these adjustments, to think a bit further down the line and so on. But what we are seeing is that it's working. We are getting very good proposal under Horizon Europe. The first data is that the quality of proposals is going up. So we have even more or even better proposals than in the past. And if this can go hand in hand with also being relevant for the societal and economic challenges we have, this is really a win-win situation that we are going towards. And that's why we think it's so important to monitor, that we all do efforts. We have not only our own activity, strictly speaking, in mind, but we look also beyond. We look at what is it we are contributing to. We give some examples. We do our best to show it, and yeah, that's how we will really continue operating and benefiting from a strong framework program for the benefit of countries individually, but also for Europe at large. And as I mentioned, these examples of the COVID and IPCC, these are examples that build upon data from FP7 already. So we were having impact even before we were talking about impact. And it doesn't mean that the more explicit effort we are putting onto it means any big change in terms of what is requested from you. It means just that we need to be structured about it so that we can monitor this more quickly and know more in real time what our contribution to the EU policies are, and that is what is behind our efforts to have a better monitoring and a bit more also information from you at certain stages, from you in terms of applicants or beneficiaries, I mean in particular, to be able to demonstrate that. I would say that's where we are. We are very eager now to of course see for Horizon 2020 what we get from the rest of all our evidence work, our studies ongoing. As I said, that will become known progressively later and later this year. Combined with that, we're also very excited and very, excited, I think is just the right word, to hear what you think and how that will be also mirrored with the findings that we get from the studies, as I mentioned. So I really hope that you and your networks, your partners will respond very actively to this public consultation going on until the 23rd of February, so quite soon. And that will then become also 2 months later, there will be also a report, first report on summarizing what comes out of this consultation. It will be a bit factual at that point still. It will not be at a full analysis. The full analysis will accompany the evaluation document that I mentioned. So that will also be very, very informative for all of you. And this one can, through the public consultation, you can really share your experience either by responding to a series of multiple choice questions, or you can complement it with further position papers and responding more in open questions if you wish. It is really up to each and everyone, to the level of experience and views you have about the program. If you do the multiple choice version, it can be quite quick. You can also do it only for one part of the questionnaire, or only for Horizon 2020, or only for Horizon Europe, or even only just for the future priorities for the next strategic plan. Or you can do it for all of them, or for two of them. This is a very modular approach that you can use, and there indeed bring more. So there are multiple choice questions on the synergies, for instance, on the coherence, on all of these parts that I mentioned. But you can provide more examples, more experience, and maybe from this even successful experience that I said that we can already see is happening in the Czech Republic. So maybe I would end on this positive note to thank you for all your efforts, and we are looking forward to further continuing on this good path together with you. And I will stay on a bit to the end of this session in case there are any questions that I can respond to at this point in time. As I said, we don't have yet the full evaluation available, but about the process and what we can see emerging, I can try to respond as much as I can. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So just to confirm, you will stay till the end of this session, till whatever, 11, let's say, 11:15. Thank you. So Czechs participate in the Horizon Europe program too, as was mentioned, and insights will be now added by Daniel Frank and Vladimír Vojtěch from Technology Center Prague, and after that you will have the place to ask questions.
Good morning, everybody. Dear researchers, dear colleagues, dear guests, dear auditorium, I am very proud to be here with you and fill in this empty space of program of this conference. But I am not alone here, because together with me is Vladimír, my colleague, is here with me, and our presentation is divided into parts. And first is for me, and the second one will be presented by my colleague. Yes. Firstly, allow me to invite you and mention our websites, because me and Vladimír work in technology center like analysts, and we try to publish our analytical outputs through our website, and this is the section of Horizon Europe National Portal, and you can find here our analytical blogs and comments concerning previous framework programs and ongoing Horizon Europe program. Today I would like to present you two practical examples of analytical outputs to statistical aspects of Czech participation in Horizon Europe. I would like to mention that we have data delay because unfortunately available databases covers only 1.5 years of Horizon Europe. So this is the reason why we will not present today the statistics concerning the ERC grants, but we have prepared other, in my eyes, interesting topics for you. Last week, the Science and Business portal published a comprehensive article concerning the first 2 years of Horizon Europe program with some statistical outputs, and one of them is the comparison of success rate of widening countries. And the statement of this article is that the success rate of widening countries is the same like average success rate of all countries of European Union. But how we can read this result? We must be very careful in interpretation of this result, because you can see that the Slovakia is the first among countries, ranks first place. What does it mean? Is Slovakia champion in Horizon Europe? No. Slovakia is no champion, because the success rate is only ratio 2 numbers, and you know that Slovak participation is very low, and we can mention that in Horizon Europe we have many types of actions, many types of programs, and for this reason is better to distinguish the types and to take into account different type of actions. This is my result, and this is the same picture like previous. Slovakia occupies the first position together with Latvia, and innovation developed countries lags behind. But the situation is different, because this is the ratio between the projects oriented to research with higher ambitions for research excellence to coordination and support actions. And you can see that the leading European countries, the ratio is higher than ratio of widening countries. And this fact very strongly influence the overall success rate. Because if we calculate the success rate only for projects with a higher level of research excellence, projects close to poor science, the position of Slovakia is dramatically changing, and Slovakia is not leader, but suddenly Slovakia is a loser, and the developed countries, Western countries, ranks first positions like Netherlands and Denmark, Belgium, and so on. Czech Republic is in the middle of this ranking. So in my eyes, if we, it depends on the type of project. We can see the correlation between share of projects with less ambitions of excellence and the overall success rate, and we can see that this correlation is valid only for new member countries or for countries with lower innovation potential. For strong innovators and leaders, according to scoreboard, European Innovation Scoreboard, this correlation is not valid. So the overall success rate is very strongly influenced by distribution of types of action for each country. The second topic for today is coordination of projects in framework programs. We can see that situation in comparison with Horizon 2020 for Czech Republic was changing, because now about 20% of Czech participants creates the coordinators, and Czech Republic belongs among, in this indicator, belongs among Western countries, and very strongly differs from other new member countries. So this means that the coordination of projects is a key aspect of our participation at the beginning of Horizon Europe. In absolute number of coordinators, Czech Republic is on 14th position between 27 countries, and first among the new member states. The changing share of an increasing share of Czech coordinators we can see in this table. We can compare two framework programs, Horizon 2020 and Horizon Europe, and we can say that the share of Czech coordinators among the European countries increased significantly. This table is divided in three parts. The first part refers to overall share of coordinators, and the middle of this table is concerning of coordinators of coordination and support actions, and the third one is dedicated to coordinators of a project with a higher level of research excellence. In all cases, the share of Czech coordination is in comparison with Horizon previous framework program is better, increased. The importance of coordinators for Czech participation now at the beginning and the first 100 calls of Horizon Europe can be seen in this chart, because 45 45% of financial contribution to Czech contribution for Czech Republic, the Czech coordinators brings to our national balance. You can see that the coordinators are very important for our participation, and as well, and we differ from other countries from West Europe, from new member countries, and what is important as well as the structure of financial distribution. You can see that the structure of contribution for new member countries is based on a project with lower ambitions, research excellence, but on the contrary, the structure of Czech distribution for Czech financial distribution for coordinators is close to the structure of Western European countries, because in this case we have the types of coordinated project distinguished into 4 groups according to character of projects, we have types of mono-beneficiaries grants and multi-beneficiaries grants, and research-oriented, more research-oriented grants and coordination actions, and combination of these 4 characteristics. And the important is that the structure of coordinators is of Czech Republic is similar to Western countries. This is valid as well for distribution of financial distribution in terms of the structure of Horizon Europe. You can see that the coordination of new member states is based on coordination in widening pillar. In this is orange color, and on the contrary, the structure of coordination of Czech Republic is similar to structure of coordination of old member states, because we have 70% financial distribution for coordinators coordinating ERC grants, actions in second pillar of Horizon Europe, and Marie Curie Sklodowska. So, in my eyes, the quality of participation or character of participation is close to old member states, and we Czech Republic differs very strongly from other new member states countries. And now this is the picture for my colleague Vladimír Vojtěch.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Vladimír Vojtěch, and I'm very pleased to continue and to take part on this nice conference. So, let's look at some geographical application of the EU contribution to participants from particular countries. From that map diagram, you can, for example, see that the EU contribution to participants is similar or have a similar pattern like an economic geography of Europe. So you can see that the highest EU contribution have participants from Germany, from the Low Countries, from the France, or from the Italy. In the case of the Czech Republic, you can also see the big east or east-west divide. So the Western countries have a very high amount of EU contribution, and the Eastern European countries or the new member states or associated countries are not on par with the Western countries. Even, for example, with the Czech Republic or Slovenia or Poland with the highest EU contribution are not on par, for example, with Portugal, which has the lowest EU contribution for participants and has a relatively weak economy. So let's and we can also see that the participation of the Czech Republic is driven mainly by the higher education institutions and by the research institutes. And on the other hand, in comparison with other states, the Czech Republic is lagging behind in participation of private companies. Tak, jak to bude fungovat? We can have a more detailed look, for example, on the Central European context. We can see on the Central European regions that this divide is visible also, and that the strongest participation have the metropolitan German and Austrian regions like Vienna, Munich, Cologne, or Düsseldorf, and that participation from Prague, Warsaw, Budapest, or Zagreb is also not on par with those Western European or German or Austrian counterparts. And we can also see very weak participation from the regions of the Czech Republic, Poland, or Hungary. And if we have a more detailed look, for example, if you look, for example, here in Hradec Králové region, what is it? There is a relatively big symbol. What does it mean? Why? So let's look at a more detailed view. We can work as well as on a district level. It is on the Horizon 2020, but we know from the 7th Framework Program and from the Horizon 2020 program, as well as now from the Horizon Europe program, that the regional pattern in the Czech Republic is replicating, but for the Horizon Europe, we don't have a complex data like told Dan. And now we can see that there is a domination of the Prague and Brno. It's normal. We can as well see the backwardness of the borderlands and in the peripheries. And let's look what means, for example, the big circle in Hradec Králové region. What does it mean? It was a firm, Argotech, an electronic firm based in Náchod district, and that firm has a relatively good participation. That means, for example, also for, now you can see Uherské Hradiště district, there is an airplane firm Evector, or you can see, for example, in Ústí nad Orlicí district in Pardubický region firm Contipro, biomedical firm. So you can see, for example, that in the regions there is a potential, but we need to unlock it. So no, there is a potential that needs to be unlocked. When we speak about the firms, we can also look at the branch of activities of firms that participate in framework programs. On what are those firms targeted? We can identify that 90% of firms participating in Horizon Europe program was targeted on 3 branches of activity. It was manufacturing, or it was information and communication activities, or it was professional, scientific, and technological activities. It was 90% of firms were targeted on those 3 branches. And if we look at the orange pillar on those professional, scientific, and technological activities, we can, for example, conclude or say that 1/3 of those firms from that orange pillar, of those firms aimed at professional, scientific, and technical activities, was and advisory firms that help participants in Horizon in framework programs to write a proposal and to manage a project. if we know branches of firms participating in framework programs, and now we can look at ownership structure and on the size structure of those firms. We can, for example, see that the ratio between foreign-owned firms and between the domestic firms that participate in Horizon Europe program is about 60% or 65% for domestic firms, for firms with Czech ownership, and 35 or 40% for the firms that are foreign-owned. If we look further, we can see that in the domestic firms, there is domination of small and medium enterprises with strengthening domination of micro and small firms and decreasing representation of medium firms. And in the foreign-owned firms, there is a stable domination of the large enterprises. And if we looked, and we can conclude, for example, we looked at the participation of firms in the framework programs, and now on that slide we can see the share of framework programs aimed at supporting business R&D in the total in the Czech Republic scheme aimed at supporting business R&D. There, from that slide, we can see relatively good information or good conclusion that the representation of the framework programs is in time strengthening, and now the framework programs contribute about to 20% of all support from public budgets or public money aimed to support R&D in companies or in business. So it's the framework programs have a relatively good or maintain a relatively good position, and that the amount of money that they distribute is similar or comparable to national programs managed, for example, by Ministry of Industry and Trade or by Technological Agency of the Czech Republic. So for me and Daniel, it was all, and many thanks for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Frank and Mr. Vojtěch, for, let's say, explaining the numbers and data in context. And I believe it was very interesting for many of us. Now it's the time for questions, and maybe I would start with Ms. Ronnlund, who should be still online to answer your possible questions. So do you have any questions for Mr. Ronnlund here in the hall? Anybody? Because we have a question definitely in the Slido. And Ms. Ronnlund, can we hear you, see you? Perfect. Hello again, there is a question for you. When will be the next strategic plan for Horizon Europe finalized? Do you expect substantial changes as for the strategic directions?
So the strategic plan is it's due in a bit over a year's time, in the first quarter of 2024. That's when it will be published. And now the preparations, the co-creation, the consultations are ongoing. So the public consultation that I referred to also covers this. So any input and views you have of what the priorities should be or if they should be adjusted, that is really the primary means to give views on that. Then there are also other consultations. There was a citizens consultation also 1st of December, for instance, with a set of citizens and in a different fora. So yeah, so it is thorough work going on until early next year. In terms of the big strategic orientations, I mean, let's see, they are quite, already the ones that were set for the first half of the program are clearly linked, as I mentioned, also to the EU priorities, so translating how we through the program can and should contribute to the Green Deal, the energy transition. I mean, with Repower EU now it has even gained traction and importance. The resilience, the health is still there. I mean, it was there in the first bit. It is still there. also the question of strategic autonomy was already there in the first strategic plan, and well, with the situation with the war on Ukraine, this question has kept definitely its relevance. So the these big directions are of course likely to stay, and then how this translates more into the medium and more immediate priorities, that should be actions that should be taken in the second half. That of course remains to be seen. I mean, if that will shift the emphasis somehow, that is too early to say. It will come out of all of these consultations and also the evidence collection that is ongoing to analyze Europe's strengths and weaknesses in these different fields, and again, learning then from the past, where were we strong or weak in the past, where do we need to improve in order to face these challenges. Plus continuing with the scientific excellence, of course, like I mentioned, I mean, this is a tradition since a long time already, and speeding up the support to innovation, and that where their big efforts are going through the EIC. So, but those are not part of the strategic plan, of course. I mean, the first and the third pillar are not in the strategic plan per se. It is focused on the second pillar and the programmable parts, if we wish.
Yeah, thank you. Allow me one really fast follow-up question. As you mentioned that you were seeking for the opinions and so on, is it that you approach the people, or where can we, let's say, find the questionnaire where we can fill it up?
So it is on a website where the Commission publishes all its public consultations. It's called Your Voice in Europe. So if you search for Your Voice in Europe, and then there will be a list of different consultations ongoing, also the ones that are closed can be looked, but there normally one will be able to identify the ongoing research one. But I can also send the link, of course, to you, to the organizers, so you can also distribute it directly to make it as easy as possible.
Thank you very much. Any other question for Ms. Ronnlund? Well, I can't see any, but thank you very much indeed, Ms. Ronnlund, and maybe stay with us if anybody has like a later question for the upcoming minutes, let's say. Any other questions for other participants from the first sessions? No, but we have one in Slido for Ms. Núñez. What was the most demanding when preparing the Czech presidency?
Yeah. Okay, thank you for the question. I think that the most demanding thing was, of course, the preparation phase, because during the presidency itself, it was the work already in flow, so to say it like this. But the preparation phase to prepare all these priorities, of course, to discuss them with all the stakeholders and to prepare, of course, a lot of events taking place in the Czech Republic, because we wanted to use the opportunity that it was possible to meet in person in Prague after a very long time, and during the previous presidency there were not so many events still in person, some of them virtual, some of them hybrid. So this phase was, from the organizational point of view, was very, very demanding, and I would say it was most exhausting from the whole period of presidency. But the presidency itself, the half year of discussions and of the political, let's say, meetings at the political level with the stakeholders from the Commission, from the side of the Council, from the side of the other member states, it was, of course, demanding, but it was also very inspiring, because it gave us also the impression that although we were not representing the Czech Republic as such, we were representing the whole EU, all the member states. Our voice was somewhat heard, and maybe you also noticed afterwards, after the presidency ended, the impression of the Czech people involved in the presidency was very, very good in terms of the evaluation from the side of the other member states, of the members of the Commission, for example, etc. So I think that it was a good momentum, and we can build on it further in the future, of course, because the image of the Czech Republic right now is quite good at the whole EU milieu, to say it like this. So, yeah, that would be my answer.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. I would like to add two comments. Two comments to statistic outputs and results. I believe that all statistic outputs for Horizon Europe are strongly influenced by limited participation of Switzerland and United Kingdom. I think that this is true. And the second, the better position of Czech coordinators at the beginning of Horizon Europe, in my opinion, is caused by extraordinary success of Czech universities at the first calls of Horizon Europe, because we have now the Czech universities coordinate now 8 research and innovation actions, big projects with big budget, and for comparison, in previous Horizon 2020, we had only 4 research and innovation projects for universities, and the relatively great success of in first calls of ERC starting grants, and of course Technology Center of Prague prepared many consultation actions for Czech coordinators. These are reasons for better participation of Czech coordinators at the beginning of Horizon Europe. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you to you. I will just follow up with a question from Slido to you and Mr. Vojtěch. Do you have some observation as for the trends in quality of proposals with Czech coordinators? Mr. Frank or Mr. Vojtěch?
I don't know. I think that is the question for our NCP, because our NCP 50% of proposals submitted to Horizon Europe was consulted with my colleagues NCP, and maybe this the quality is higher. I can say that we have a very low ineligibility rate in comparison with new member states. But I believe that is the question for NCP, because they have experience with proposals submitted by Czech coordinators to calls of Horizon Europe program.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Maybe you will find somebody, yeah? Mr. Klusáček, do you want to come?
I don't know if...
I'm sorry, but the people online would not be able to hear you. Microphone, please. Thank you.
You mentioned the good start of Czech teams, Czech universities in the framework program as for coordination. So do you think it's just something unusual, some positive pulse, or it is a sign of some improvement, some trend of improvement, our participation as for coordination in the framework program as such?
In my opinion, this is related with maybe with the situation at in the Czech universities, because it's very difficult to predict the trends, but I believe that the services for coordinators and at the universities are getting better, and we are at the beginning of the program, because and it's difficult to answer here.
Anybody else has a question? Yeah. Okay. So, thank you.
Nadia Koníčková, Technology Center Prague. I do not have a question. I just would like to comment or answer, because Dan said, well, it's from our internal statistics, it's obvious that, for example, almost all successful Czech projects in widening part of the program have been consulted, or we provided some assistance to the proposals, and it's very similar, for example, in Marie Sklodowska career actions, where when we observe that those proposals to which we provide some feedback, they are, maybe not all are selected for funding because it's very demanding, but are above the thresholds which enables funding, so they are eligible, for example, for national schemes to be supported. So this is just two examples. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So if nobody else has a question, I would like to close this session and thank you all very much, and just tell you a little bit more information. But starting that in October 2022, close to 500 researchers and managers from all over the world gathered in Brno at the International Conference on Research Infrastructures that was already mentioned by Ms. Núñez. And we want to show you some moments from that event. So those were a few shots from the 3-day event in Brno in October 2022, which was more or less about sharing research infrastructure. And that, and also cooperating in general, can bring outstanding ideas and putting them into practice. And that is also what we are talking about today, and what you actually can even see in person. Please accept our invitation to visit the exhibition, already mentioned, of selected Horizon projects results with significant Czech contribution. One was already mentioned, the translation system, but allow me to lure you by, for example, food, smartphone, a new design of solar cells and modules, or a platform on cultural tourism, and many, many more. So please enjoy the upcoming minutes and use them before lunch to get to know about all those amazing projects. And a little administrative information after that. Sharp at noon, the lunch will be served, and we will meet here again at 13 for the afternoon program, or 1 p.m. Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy the upcoming time, meet researchers, and have fun.